this session. I'm just going to wait a moment or two just to make sure everybody is okay and signed in. And then we will get started. Okay. I'm going to hope that everybody's there. The first thing I'd like to do is introduce myself. So I am Wendy, and I will be running this session this morning over the next hour on an introduction to starting a business. I would also like to introduce my colleague Luther, who is looking after the chat box for me this morning. So Luther works with me at the Small Business Research and Enterprise Centre, and I have asked him if he wouldn't mind looking after the chat so that I can deliver the presentation, and he will look after that. While I think of it, if you have any questions while I'm going through, do feel free to put them into the chat or make a note of them to ask me later. Because there's an awful lot to get through, I probably won't stop as I'm going through, but we'll come back to all of the questions at the end. So I am leaving time at the end for Q&A, but I wanted to make sure that we at least get through the presentation. Which is why, as I say, I've asked Luther to look after the chat for me. Feel free to add questions as we're going through anyway, and then we will come back to them. So the reason I'm saying that is I'm not ignoring you. I just need to come back to it at the end. So the introduction to starting a business. This will last an hour. I'm going to come to the agenda in a moment. But as well as introducing myself, I wanted to introduce to you the Small Business Research and Enterprise Centre, which you can see on the first screen. We are funded by the City of London Corporation, which you'll see at the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. So we are a public service. We are open to anybody like yourselves that is looking to start a business and those who are already trading. So we are a small business support service, and we are here to help you on your journey. I will be sending, towards the end of the presentation, we will add this presentation into the chat bar, into the chat box, so you won't need to scribble notes from what you're actually seeing on the screen, because that will be added into the chat bar later in the session. That also has all the contacts for the Small Business Research and Enterprise Centre. So a public service open to small businesses based anywhere in the UK. We are a service that supports nationwide. We have one physical location, however, and that location is in the City of London. We are a membership service, but we have free membership. We have two types of membership, a paid one, which gives you remote access to specialist data, but we have a free membership that gives you the same access to that data if you can come into the business centre. You can also, on the free membership, gain access to 4 of our specialist databases, one of which I will be talking about quite a lot this morning. So moving on. As you can see from the agenda, there is a lot to get through. So this is why I want to get through the presentation in one go, as it were. Otherwise, it's quite easy to get distracted. Questions might be specific to one person or 2 people and so on. So I've broken it down into 2 sections. The introductory part of legal status, raising finance, who you need to tell, business premises and intellectual property. These are all things that you have to be aware of. You have to have considered. They're things that maybe not quite as exciting, apart from maybe the raising finance, but they are things that are really, really important. The second part of the session is the blue text. So SWOT, financial forecasting and pricing, business model canvas, business plans and next steps. That section, that half of the presentation, slightly over half, I feel is a much more dynamic, much more exciting part of the journey, because this is where you're actually taking your journey forward and changing it from theory and idea to actually becoming a reality. So these are tools that can help you in that journey. What I need to say from the get-go is that we only have this short time. This really is an overview, an introduction. Now, because of that, it can sometimes feel overwhelming. The reason for that is because I'm trying to give you a framework, a skeleton, a skeletal structure of things you'll need to consider, but you don't have to do everything all at once. But that can, I know, sometimes feel overwhelming. And I don't want it to be overwhelming, which is why I'm giving you the heads up now. So if you think, oh, there's just so much, just take a pause, revisit one or two bits, and then think about those one or two bits. You will find that then grows organically, and it can be a joy as well as a lot of hard work. But I always like to just give you the heads up that because I'm throwing really every aspect at you, there is a lot. So let's move on to the first thing on the legal status. What type of business are you going to be? Now, you may have heard of all of these terms, or some of them. Brief overview: sole trader or partnership is where it's you and another person just up and running. You're not registering, you're a sole trader. You will have to register with the tax office, but you don't register with Companies House. It's the quickest way of doing it. It's the quickest way. Once you've got all your planning, you know what you're doing, you can then just go off and start running your business. Limited company is where you do register at Companies House, so you have to submit annual filings, your annual returns at Companies House. Limited liability partnership, also you register at Companies House. Community interest company, you also register at Companies House, but it's different from a private limited company, because as the name suggests, you are heavily involved and committed to supporting your community, whether that's a physical geographical community or a group of clients. There are advantages and disadvantages to all of these. And it's really the best thing is to consider what is going to work for you and for your business. Now, there are a couple of tools that can help you with this. The Cobra database is one of the databases you get free remote access to with a free membership. So if you sign up for membership for nothing other than access to the Cobra database, I totally recommend it. This database is it's a commercial publication. We, as a business service, we use our budget to subscribe to this resource, which allows us to pass it on to you completely for free. Now, what it does, it has what they call fact sheets that cover all aspects of running a business. It's written in everyday language, so it's not trying to confuse or dazzle or anything. It lays out clearly, if you're looking at this information, this is what you need to know, this is what you need to consider, here are your next steps, here are some tips. They have a fact sheet, as it says here, on legal structures. So, for example, going back to the sole trader, a great advantage is that you have a lot more freedom to just up and run that business yourself. A downside is that the financials of that business are directly linked to you and your personal finances. You are personally responsible for the finances of that business. If you are a private limited company, as in you register with Companies House, the financials become attached to the business and not you personally. So that's a great security buffer should the worst case happen and it doesn't work. But then the downside is that they're much more processes that you have to go through. So the COBRA fact sheet explains all of that. They have a nice table that say advantages, disadvantages for each one. They also have individual fact sheets for each type of status. Moving on, raising finance. COBRA again has a fact sheet called Sources of Finance for Starting a Business. It's fabulous. It gives you ideas of where you might go. It also gives you ideas of what's best suited for your type of business, maybe your industry, and so on. At the Business Centre, we have a database called Bohurst. So SBREC, just to mention, is our acronym, Small Business Research and Enterprise Centre. So the Bohurst database is another one to which we subscribe. You can only access it at the Business Centre. That is the license agreement we have with Bohurst, but it's completely free to use, and it has a wizard on the platform. It will say, what's your industry? What stage are you at? How much are you looking for? It asks several questions. Then it produces a list of organisations that have either provided business loan or business equity or grants even to businesses similar to yours. So that is another potential resource to look at. On our website, we have produced a list of other websites that they're open websites, so they're completely free, that provide funding, again, for different industries maybe, or different aspects and so on. So when you get this presentation later on, all of these underlined are hyperlinked. It will take you to that page where we've got a list of websites. There are always, there are usually other schemes, maybe government provided schemes, maybe your local authority. So it's always worth just keeping an eye out on what's currently available. I haven't listed specific things because they change. So it's always just, it's really an aid memoir. There may be other things available for focusing on different geographical areas, different industries, and so on. Who you must tell. So this is where I fully appreciate, and I'm sorry that already you're probably thinking, oh, lot to remember. What I would recommend is don't try and remember everything that I'm saying, because you will have the presentation, you can come back over it, but this is just to give you that overview of things to consider. So everybody has to register with the tax office, HMRC, His Majesty's Revenue and Customs, known as the tax office. If you are registering as a private limited company, you can do that at the same time that you register with Companies House. If you're registering as a sole trader, where you're not registering Companies House, you still have to register with the tax office. Companies House for if you want to be a private limited company, an LLP or CIC, community interest company. You do, if you're trading, if you have a physical premises, you will have to pay business rates to the council where you're trading. Those business rates depend on square meterage of the property, but each council has a business page where you can find out what that might be. It's also really advantageous sometimes because local authorities do often run programs or support for businesses, and if they know about you, then they can offer those to you. You may have come across GDPR, which stands for General Data Protection Regulations, and I realise as I say that I shouldn't have added regulations after it. So GDPR is the General Data Protection Regulations, works in conjunction with the Data Protection Act 2018. You will definitely need to be very aware of this when you're running a business. Data protection applies to not only your customers, but also any providers or business partners that you work with. The easiest way I always find when you're thinking about data protection is think of yourself as a customer. We all now get, every time we go onto a website, a new website, we are asked, do we want to save cookies or allow cookies or reject them? Any email newsletter that you sign up for, you always have the option to unsubscribe. So all those sorts of things that we already experience as individual people, you need to make sure that you're pulling that through to your business. Now, the ICO, and again, that is hyperlink, is the governing body, and their website's really, really good. It's really informative. They're also really good at answering questions. They stress that they are not in the business of penalising anybody. They're in the business of helping businesses understand GDPR and ensuring that they are adhering to it. I have also put the central government's business section link, which is central government, so everything on there is regulation is current and relevant. Moving on to your business premises. Things to consider are you running your business online, a physical premises, or mobile work? It could, of course, be hybrid of some of that. But things that you do need, they are things that you do need to consider, because each of those will have different legal requirements you need to work out. They will all include insurance. So, you know, look at insurance of what you need for that. But for, you know, for a physical premises, you might need licenses. If you're in the food drink industry, then obviously you need food and health and safety licenses, certificates, and so on. So each of industry has its own regulations, and sorry, before I go on to that one, it won't surprise you to know that the Cobra database has fact sheets on each of these. So the Cobra database you can access remotely. It has a keyword search. It has things called profiles as well as fact sheets. So the profiles look at industries. And if, like this example of hairdressing, if you looked up hairdressing, it will give you information on what you need to know, what licenses do you need, what certificates, if any, do you need. So thinking about where you're going to trade from is important, because you need to make sure that you've ticked every legislation box, as it were. Intellectual property, so important. And I really want to stress this because I know that a lot of people, when they come in to start a business, think, oh, I'm new to the business. No one's going to steal my ideas. But they're your ideas and you just never know. So if you're starting a business, you don't want somebody seeing your website or an Insta post and think, oh, that's great. I like that. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to steal that company name. I really like it. You just don't know. So I really, really stress that this is something, before you start trading, please consider your intellectual property. Your business doesn't just spring out of nowhere. This has come from years and years of your knowledge, your experience, your hard work. So value your own intellectual property. It covers copyright, trademark, designs, and patents. Cobra has fact sheets on each of these. Copyright is the easiest one because you don't register that anywhere. You will have seen it everywhere. The little C, the letter C in a circle. That means you've copyrighted it. If you add it and you've got a date, you have copyrighted it. So if somebody then comes along next year or 6 months, you at least have that paper trail of when you copyrighted it. So that's a quick win. That's a quick way of protecting your information. The other 3 you do register. And what I will also say is bear in mind, do a check that you're not taking a trademark business name that somebody else already has, because then you're infringing on their intellectual property, and that can be a costly thing. I will add that I genuinely believe that the majority of intellectual property theft, for want of a better word, is accidental. We all see so much all the time that I might not go out intentionally thinking I'm going to take that, but I might have seen something and not even registered that I then subsequently use. So make sure that you're not infringing other people's intellectual property, and then protect your own. All these links are hyperlinked. The IPO is the government's governing body, so that's a really good place to start. And then you'll see there are free clinics if you're looking for trademark advice or patent advice. The British Library have specialist resources on intellectual property, but just a heads up that you may already know this, but they are having some technical problems. They're having to rebuild a lot of stuff because unfortunately they were hacked a while ago. So if that's somewhere that you look at, just contact them first before you go down there. Right. So I'll take some water and you can pause for breath. All of that stuff that I've just covered, really, really important. I am going to repeat myself here and say, I know it seems overwhelming, but what I want to do is give you the framework so that you know the things to consider. You don't do it all at once. So you pick at these things, you build on these things, but it's important to know what you need to be aware of so that you can start building. You will have this presentation later, so you can go over it, you can pick one bit at a time. Particularly with those bits, can have a look up on Cobra, because then that helps build the picture for each of those sections individually. So although I'm giving this all to you, you don't do it all at once. This section is, I did say this before, so I'm going to repeat myself here. This section is more interesting because it is about starting to think about, how do I make my dream a reality? it's so it's important to take your time with your planning. Don't rush into this, because if you rush into it, you haven't considered all these things, you're making life really difficult for yourself. You will come to a point and think, oh, I haven't thought about that, or what am I going to do for this? So this part, these sections in this part of the agenda are tools that you can use to help you build on your assumptions. So you might start with an assumption: I'm great at this, I know what I'm doing, I'm sure there are customers out there, I'm going to go ahead and do it. Those are assumptions. So what you now need to do is just get some evidence, give some proper deep thought about each assumption, to either reaffirm for yourself that your assumptions are right. You may also find, actually, maybe you hadn't quite got your target audience right, or you hadn't got your marketing policy right to reach target audience. So working through these helps you understand if maybe you need to tweak your original plan, you need to add a different direction, you might need to change it completely, you might decide, actually, this isn't for me. That, of course, would be a shame. That's not what we're aiming for. But there's still a value to that. If you come with an assumption and then you do this work and you think, no, that's just not going to work, that's just as important as starting a business with all the knowledge, because it's saving you from a lot of heartache. You don't waste your time there, because you might think of a different idea. You already understand the process then, and it can build from that. So that's obviously not what we're aiming for, but that is still just useful. So all of these are tools. So let's go through these now. You may have come across a SWOT analysis. SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. And this is one of my favourite parts. When I'm starting to build that picture of a new business, I actually quite get excited over this, because it's starting to look at it as a reality. So strengths and weaknesses are what you bring, what your business is all about. In this example, I have used starting a vegan cafe. Now, the example I'm using is a physical premises. Businesses, whether it's a physical service, a physical product or a service, all follow the same principles. So yes, this is an example, and I'm sure it doesn't apply to the majority of you for your industry, but it's the same principle. So in the strength, if I'm starting a vegan cafe, I'm going to say, I have great industry knowledge. I've been working in the industry 7 years. I really know it extremely well. I know contacts. I know what people like. I know suppliers who provide quality ingredients, which I know is what sells. So those are strengths that I'm bringing to it. Weaknesses: as a new business, I don't have capital and I don't have reputation. I have to build my brand and I need to source financing. So those, well, to be honest, are very common weaknesses. But those in this example, they're my weaknesses. I've put 2 for each. It could be 3, it could be 4. It doesn't have to be exactly the same for everyone either. Opportunities and threats are external to you. What are the opportunities out there for my business? So growing interest, lots of people are eating vegan, vegetarians are happy to eat vegan, so lots of people, my potential customers, and I want to set up my cafe in this local authority, and I know lots of people are there. Those are my assumptions. I have to build on that. I have to go out and I have to do my research. I have to walk around the streets. I have to look. I have to speak to people. I also have to do desk research to find, is that industry really forecast to grow? Are my assumptions correct? However, starting with my SWOT analysis, that's what I'm basing it on. And the threats, of course, are the opposite. So rising cost of ingredients and competition. Competition applies to not just your competitors now, but you need to always be mindful of potential competitors. Who's coming along the pipeline? When you're up and running, always just keep in touch with who's out there. Financials. Actually, sorry, just before I will interrupt myself here, just say about the SWOT analysis. A useful approach to it is do a SWOT analysis on who you believe is one of your competitors. If you do a SWOT analysis on 1, 2, 3 of your competitors, that helps you build your own SWOT analysis. So if you're new to that, then that's quite an easy, or it makes it a bit easier to do it. So pick somebody else. We do have a database actually that has some SWOT analysis, so it might be useful to look at a competitor first. Okay, so moving on to financials. Oops, sorry. These are the 3 areas to think about. Sales, budgeting, which includes everything or everything that you're spending, making sure you can afford it, and the cash flow is basically combining it, making sure that you always have cash flow as you're going through. That is stable. I'm going to go over these in more detail for each of them. So with your financials, this is going to include your personal survival budget, which is you as an individual, your startup costs for the business, sales forecasts, and cash flow forecasts. We do have templates that we're more than happy to send you. They're templates that we have created. There are plenty of templates out there on that big, wonderful internet. So do have a look around, find one that works for you. If you're looking at something other than the one that we can send you, be aware that of the currency that it's using. So make sure it's in pounds sterling, because if you find once in an American, for example, it will be in dollars, and some terminology will be different as well. So just make sure that you find one that's a UK product. So as it says there, the email address, Luther, actually, if you wouldn't mind, while I think of it, in the chat bar, if you just pop our web address and our email address, because then all you need to do is just email us in and we'll send you back a template for the financials. I have screenshots. I'm going to show you what they look like, so you know what to expect. So the personal survival budget is self-explanatory. It's what you as an individual need to live. Some of these headings are easy. So our mortgage or our rent, we know, well, I mean, I understand that the changes, but for an annual period, you know what that's going to be each month. Council tax, you know what that's going to be each month. Utilities, and you know, it's going to increase, whatever it is. But there will be some things like utilities that, I mean, it might be a fixed amount you're paying, but it might be variable. So there are some things you have to estimate. It's the reason this is important is it does show you what you need, bottom line, what you need to survive. It also shows you potential areas you could cut back on while you're getting your business up and running. Most businesses, all businesses, won't hit the ground running, generating top sales. So you need to allow for a period of growth of your brand. So this personal survival budget, if you break down in detail what you spend every month, so we've got examples here of regular subscriptions, they might be things that you can just cut back on. If you find that you're spending a lot of money going on holidays, they might be things that you can budget on more, just to help you reduce how much you actually need. So it's really, really useful for that as well. Startup costs, again, self-explanatory. Startup costs for your business. Now, we've got examples of headings. You can type over them. You can delete lines. So make it your own, is what I'm saying. But we've put in examples of things to help you think about what you will need. So this is how much money you need to start your business. That helps you understand in detail how much money you may need to borrow, or if you've covered that from your own savings or your own financials, if you can bootstrap it, or if you need to go to an external source for funding. If you do go to an external source, if that external source happens to be friends or family, please make sure that you have a written agreement. The last thing you want to do is fall out with friends and family who have helped you financially, because you've remembered things differently. You might remember that you'll repay them £200 every month. They might remember it as £250. Little things like that. So if you're a friend, family are lending you money, just get it in writing so that you don't fall out. So that's startup costs. That's before you launch. You're then looking at sales forecasts. Now, this starts to become complicated for people, particularly if you're not particularly comfortable with numbers. So what I will say is, if when you get our template, you look at this and you think, I don't understand it, please just drop us a line and we can do a quick Teams 10-15-minute Teams chat just to go over this, because I do fully understand. I see it many times that it's difficult for some people to get their head round initially. So please don't think that I'm giving you this and that's it. You're on your own now. So if you get this and you think, no, don't get it, please just let us know. So this is the blank template. Now, I do have an example of how this might work. So a sales forecast spreadsheet is just on what you think you will sell. Now, for this example, I've used homeopathic oils, remedies, healthcare, alternative healthcare service. It's a service and a product. So this to kind of show you that it doesn't matter if you're using a service or product, the same principle applies. So in my top box, I've itemized the products and the unit price that I am selling it at. So as it says here, over-the-counter oils, 20 millilitres to the customer they're going to pay £8.99 if they buy one bottle. And then it's got like obviously different products. Further down, you will see I've added consultations and the pricing for those. So if people have a single consultation, I'm charging them £59. If they sign up for 3 consultations, total of £150, as a one price. It's a discount for them, but that's what they're paying in one go. So I'm itemising my sales at the top in the yellow boxes. The yellow boxes are the only boxes you enter data. So I then move to the second box and I say how many units of each item I believe I'm going to sell each month. I'm just starting, so I'm building. So you will see that I've started low, and then I get to month 3 and then month 7 it'll increase. Also, because I'm just starting out, I'm going to assume that I don't sell any 3-part consultation in my first 3 months, because I'm building that brand. I might be able to convert some of those individual consultations into 3 parts, but that's going to take time. So you will see in the bottom box, in the 3-part consultation, I have no, I don't think I'll sell any of those in the first 3 months, but then the next 4, I'm hopeful that I'll sell. I predict, forecast I will sell 1 each month. It's a question everybody has. How do I know how much I will sell before I start trading? And I would love to give you an answer. There isn't an easy answer. But this is where research is key. So if you start now and you've done no research, it's impossible. I would say it's impossible to know how many you will likely sell. So this is where research is really important. Research, desk research, secondary research, where you're looking at published reports about the market, what consumers are buying, what is a trend, how much will people pay for X, Y, and Z. Primary research is where you go out and speak to people, ask people face to face, do a LinkedIn poll, do an Instagram poll. You know, it doesn't have to be physical, in person. It can be a digital option, but you need to start building that information. Look at what competitors are doing. What are their best sellers? So by doing all of that research, understanding your client base is helping you then work out what you believe your forecast will be. So it's not an easy answer, how much do you charge? But if you can put in that research, that work to get to this point, you then have a much more solid understanding of what it's likely to be. Of course, once you've traded 1 year, then the second year becomes much easier, because you have a history already to base it on. I'm going to move on because it's past already and I'm very conscious of time. Cash flow, the cash flow forecast. This amalgamates everything. Now you'll see at the top, it has a line for sales. So all that work that we do on the sales forecast is all detailed, all broken down. That transfers automatically as a single figure along the sales forecast. Your income is at the top, and then your outgoings are the bottom box. Again, we've added in examples. You can overtype to make this personal to your own business. And then you go through what you have at the start, what it's going to cost at the start, but also what you forecast or what you know will happen over each month for the year. It gives you a balance. Now, this is beneficial because the balance will also help you with your sales forecasting. Because if in the closing balance, if the whole year is in red, as in negative, you know that the pricing is not right. You need to generate more income or spend less. But if you see that you need to generate more income, you can go back to your sales forecasting, work out which is giving you the best profit margin, and maybe focus on them. Try and sell more of those, that's the items that are going to give you the bigger markup, and put less time and energy into the things that don't give you as much profit. So this cash flow can help with your sales. Again, it's not easy, and I totally understand, especially for those of you who aren't comfortable with spreadsheets or figures. Please just drop us a line, and we will, as I say, we'll have a 10-15 minute catch up if you want to come in. We do also offer one-to-one business advice. We make a charge for that, which is £39 for the first hour, 29 subsequent hours. But if you prefer to have a one-to-one for a full hour, then that's also an option. Otherwise, just drop us a quick line. Okay, so pricing strategies, I have really kind of covered this a little bit, sorry. So again, how to start. A good idea is to look at competitors, but don't base it completely on them, because they may have a different client base, they may be in a different area, they may sell other things. And what every business will do is that they'll sell some things, what they call a loss leader, which is where you sell some things at a very, very low profit margin to entice in customers that will then buy something else. All of the big shops do it. Absolutely everyone does it. So that's why you just need to be careful about basing your prices on what your competitors are doing. But it's a great starting point, the easiest starting point. So as I said, ask people. If you can market test, that is by far the best way, because the downside of asking people is they might say, yes, I will pay you £100 for that shirt. That's tailor-made. But then when it comes to it, they don't. So if you're making something, handmade products, a bit of market testing, they're actually handing over money for it. That's the best information you can get. So if you can, then I recommend market testing. And then, as I was saying, working out your baseline using your cash flow data, so working back and forth with your sales data and your cash flow. Regularly review yours and competitors' prices. I am whizzing on because I've still got a couple of other bits, and time is running out, and I realise time is really important. People probably have other meetings to go to. So working out your profit margin, work out your hourly rate. Don't forget, you need to draw down a salary. You can't live off air. A common problem when people are new to starting business is that you don't factor in preparation and after sales, which now this is your business, you have to do all of that. That has to be taken into account. Time is now literally money. So that has to be factored into your pricing strategy. I've got there, allow for profit margin, gives you space for bundling. Bundling is your special offers. So if you have a quiet month, you know it's going to be quiet, you might want to do a special offer that month, where it's 4 for the price of 3. That's called bundling. So healthy profit margin means you're not living hand to mouth from month to month, but you're building up a healthy profit margin to allow for those quiet times in the year. Every business has them. Another tool, which is a really, really good one to start with, is called a business model canvas. This is produced by a company called Strategizer. It's an online product, it's freely available. It looks at building blocks and it looks at 3 key areas: you, your business, who are your customers, and how's your business run. It looks like this. So the middle bit, the value propositions, is you, your business. What is your unique selling point? What is your business? To the right, so customer relationships, segments, channels, revenue, that's all about your customers. Boxes on the left are all about how your business is going to run. Who do you need to help you? Who are your suppliers? And this next one is obviously the same boxes, and I'm not going to read through all this. I realise it's a really, really tiny script, but we can send you this as well by email if you would like. These are pointers. So, for example, customer relationships. How often does a customer buy from you? One-off or ongoing? Will you meet customers in person? Is it a distance service, and so on? So just pointers, tips to help you think about what goes into that. Now, a business model canvas is brainstorming with yourself. There's never going to be a point that you have to show anybody a model canvas. This is totally a working document for you. So dump as much information on you as you want on there, chop and change, but it's a brilliant starting point. Just helps you identify those big building blocks. Now, with each of those, they will feed into your business plan. I've heard many people say, oh, I don't need a business plan. I would 100% disagree with them. Some people, truth be told, some people do start a business without business plan and they're successful. However, the majority of people who are not successful haven't planned. They've tried to shortcut this journey because business plans are a lot of work. But honestly, that work is what makes your business stand a much better chance of success, because what it is making you do is address every element of your business before you start. And by doing that, you've built a foundation. You know what you're doing. Things won't come out of the woodwork and or out of the corner of left field and think, oh, no, I didn't even think about that. So that hard work of a business plan is what makes it successful, is what makes it so valuable. If you need funding, you'll need it anyway. But honestly, this is so important for you, for your business. Just a few headings. It takes you through how management processes, who's running it, who's doing what, what's your marketing strategy, who are you reaching out to. I have read so many business plans that say I'm going to market through social media, but what does that mean? A business plan breaks it down. I'm going to use Instagram and TikTok because I know that my target audience view those platforms and buy products or services through those platforms. You can't just say I'm going to use social media because not everybody uses everything. It needs to marry up with your target audience. You need to know how much it's going to cost. So taking you through all those things like that. So let me just check the time, 5 minutes each. Now, I'm more than happy to stay online to answer questions. I do also appreciate that people have to drop off. So if we don't get to your questions in the next few minutes, please email us. Please email us, and then we will get back to you. So join us. We have events other than the one today. You may have found it page. But these are just. Wait, Luther, could you mute whoever is? Thank you. And Luther, if you could add the presentation into the chat bar, then everybody's got this that you can download. It will also have our email address. Right, let me stop talking and stop sharing. And right, Luther, do we have any questions for me?
So I've been looking at the chat. There isn't any questions, but guys, this is the Q&A section. So feel free to ask Wendy a question. You can either come off mute or you can type it into the chat and I can read it out as well for Wendy.
And no pressure, but you've got 4 minutes.
Hi, Wendy. It's Avis Lawrence here. How are you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Hi, Luther. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
I'm just. I did put something in the chat regarding finance. I was asking if the City of London is doing an access to finance, any access to finance,
as in specifically a workshop.
No, for small businesses, actually financial
providing
yeah.
Mm-hmm. We don't have very much at the moment. The only thing we have is something called the Samuel Wilson's Loan Trust, which it's actually a charity that we work with, and they provide in business loans for up to £50,000 at 2%. Now, there are criteria, eligibility criteria about that. There is a link on our website, but if you want to email us separately, then we can also send you that link. So on our website, there is a box that says Samuel Wilson's Loan Trust, and that has the eligibility criteria on there. That's the only thing specifically at the moment.
Okay, so that with that's coming through you, but what about the City of London Corporation itself?
That is actually part of the City of London Corporation, because we're part of it.
Okay.
So there aren't any grants or loans available at the moment from the City of London Corporation. But again, that's not to say that would always be the case.
Okay.
A small business support, if I'm honest, is something we're always asking for, but at the moment there isn't.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much.
Wendy, we have another question. So this is from Dazila. And they've said about the sales forecast, should the cost per unit of my product be estimated, or do I have to do a thorough research in the market?
You can estimate it, but based on some research. So yeah, based on some research, but definitely it's okay to estimate to begin with so that you can start populating that spreadsheet.
That's perfect. And Melissa's also asked a question. How can you check for a business name, like a website domain, sorry, and where to register your name?
Okay, so the quickest way to check is just having a look on the internet. You can also check on Companies House. So Companies House website has every registered business. Now, Companies House doesn't include businesses that are sole traders, so that's where you would need to just look online. You can, it's worth also speaking to people at the British, the BIPC, which is the Intellectual Property Centre at the British Library, because they do have some specialist advisors on intellectual property. And they give free advice on that. I would also have a look at the COBRA fact sheet for intellectual property, business names, registering a business, because that will have a checklist of the things that you need to do to go through. To register a business, if you're wanting to be a private limited company, then that is done on Companies House. But again, COBRA has, I think it might even be called registering a limited company, so that there is information on COBRA as well.
That's perfect. And there's one more. I say this will be the last question.
Yeah.
This is from Yashini, and they said, what marketing strategies will be best for business related to technology? Sorry, my thing's just gone. Oh, like a smartwatch, sorry, but for a certain neurodivergent field like dyslexia, ADHD, or anxiety. So how would they market that?
Yeah, that's a big question.
It is.
It's a really good question. What I would say is that there'll be market data on different elements of that. Now, because the target audience is specific, and it might be for a specific product, that you might need to pull together different research. So the first thing, I mean, if you're talking about marketing strategy, the first thing you really need to research and understand and get data on is your target market. So just in those areas that you mentioned, they themselves are quite vast, quite big areas. So breaking it down a little bit into different neurodiverse aspects. Are you looking at different ages? Is it particular industry? So there will be market data on different elements you might need to pull together. But the first thing you will need to understand, have a really good understanding, is who your target audience, what do they use? What are they looking for? How much do they spend on X, Y, and Z? Do they like the sort of product or the service that you're proposing delivery? Speaking with, getting involved in networks that will be relevant, that could be relevant. Go to networking events, or if they're in-person events, speaking to people, seeing if there are competitors, seeing what their marketing is, but also doing a bit of research on marketing strategies. We do have some events, webinars and seminars on marketing strategies. There will be, I'm sure there will be lots and lots of videos on YouTube, but that's always hard because there's just so many of them. It's hard to kind of whittle down into good ones. So it's identifying what you need to know in that marketing strategy. COBRA has a fact sheet on marketing strategy, and that might be a good place to start because it will break down the different elements you need to consider to start building it. That's a sort of a really snapshot to a really big question. What I would also suggest is you're very welcome to sort of drop us an email as well. You're welcome to come into the centre, speak to Brendan or Mohib, who are the business advisors here, or I might be on the desk as well, and then we can kind of get you started, point you in the right direction, some resources to have a look at, and so on. Okay, it's probably time to finish. So I know I have said this again before, but I will say it again, please contact us. I've thrown lots of stuff at you. It's a starting point. It's for you to start building on, looking at it. So reach out to us today, tomorrow, next month, next year. We are here to help people just like yourselves looking to start a business, and also once you're up and running, if we can't help, we will signpost you to places that we believe will. So we won't just drop you. So thank you all very much for coming today. Good luck with your business ventures, and I hope to see you in the near future. Thank you. Bye-bye.